The film opens on a stormy night with a girl named Melek approaching an old, isolated house. Upon entering, she encounters some unusual women. One is screaming, while 3 others sit in front of a dead body, cutting a shroud with scissors. Outside, she notices her parents watching her through the window, and suddenly, Melek wakes up, revealing that she is paralyzed. Following this scene, the film shifts to the Osman Gazi district in Bursa, Turkey, where Melek's friend Burcu wakes up hearing a phone vibrating. She tries to check his husband Hakan's phone, but is thwarted by a password. She confronts Hakan, asking him why his phone is locked, and suspects that he is still in contact with her ex-girlfriend. However, Hakan invites her to check his phone, revealing the message was actually from his uncle Burcu, and realizing her mistake, she laughs at her own foolishness. The scene then shifts to Misi village, where we are introduced to Eda, who spots a tortoise at her house, revealing her deep affection for animals. Following this, we are introduced to Ayla, who calls Burcu to inform her that Melek's father Davut has been laid off. Burcu tells her she will find out what's going on and call her back. She then calls her father, asking why he laid off Melek's father, and urges him to reconsider his decision. Her father reassures her not to worry and promises he will handle the situation. After ending the call, Hakan asks her who Melek is, to which Burcu explains that Melek was one of her closest friends from high school, but she became paralyzed during their final year. Hakan remarks that she has never mentioned this before, and asks what else he might not know about. Burcu then reveals that sometimes they would sneak out at night under the guise of group study to meet at an abandoned house on the outskirts of town. One night, as they approached the house, they heard someone screaming, and it was Melek. They saw Havel there, whom the townspeople called a mad witch. Frightened and believing Havel had harmed Melek, they ran to get help. When the townspeople arrived at the old house, they found Melek with severe injuries on her head, and her hair had been cut. She spent months in the hospital, and when she returned, she was profoundly changed. Meanwhile, Melek's mother Munever confides in Eda's mother Saliha that she was awakened by a voice the previous night, and it seemed as though Melek was trying to say something. Munever is deeply distressed, not only because of her daughter's past suffering, but also because her husband Davut has been laid off recently, and to add to her woes, the woman responsible for the ordeal remains free. Anguished, Munever curses her and prays for divine retribution, saying, "May God punish her." Later that evening, while Eda is feeding her fish, the filter suddenly stops working. Confused, she starts checking the problem, but jumps when it unexpectedly turns back on. And just then, Saliha arrives and tells her that Melek had tried to speak the previous night. Eda is overjoyed by the news and enthusiastically declares that she will visit Melek soon, bringing the turtle along, convinced that Melek will like it and be happy. That night, Havel is seen outside Melek's house, leaving a hen there. Meanwhile, Burcu is engrossed in reading some books, one of which discusses shamans, defined as sorcerers or wizards capable of foreseeing the future, casting spells, and making offerings to spirits. Suddenly, she hears a noise from outside, causing her to become frightened. Perplexed, Burcu steps outside to investigate, but finds no one around. She calls Hakan and asks him where he is, to which he informs her that he went to buy cigarettes and will return in 2 minutes. Feeling unsettled, Burcu heads to the kitchen to drink some water, but gets startled when the door behind her shuts on its own. She hears some unsettling voices from outside and gets horrified to see several women sitting there, engaged in conversation, with Havel among them. Melek is also present there, and as Havel gets up and begins to approach Burcu, she becomes terrified and starts screaming. Havel begins banging on the door, but just then, Hakan arrives and tries to calm her down. Meanwhile, Davut informs Munever that the foreman contacted him today and requested his presence at the factory tomorrow. He also mentions that his friend Sally knows a healer who is highly praised, and he is thinking of taking Melek to him. Just then, the doorbell rings, and when Munever answers it, she finds Eda there holding the turtle. Eda explains that she discovered it in the woodshed and brought it over to cheer Melek up. Eda enters and presents the turtle to Melek, but Melek doesn't respond. Eda then requests permission from her mother to take Melek inside for a private conversation. Once inside, she encourages Melek to move her finger if she can hear her. She asks Melek if she remembers her, but Melek does not respond, and just then, Munever arrives with tea for Eda. Eda expresses her belief to Munever that Melek might be able to understand them, and only then, Melek moves her finger. Meanwhile, Ayla hears some noise from under her bed. Perplexed, she checks and discovers a clip, then notices someone walking around her bed. This sight terrifies her, and we see that it's Havel. Just as Havel stops, Ayla is haunted by the ghost of Melek. However, it turns out to be a nightmare. Upon waking, Ayla finds herself under her bed, and when she emerges, there is no one in her room. Eda returns home and informs her mother that Melek's condition remains unchanged. Despite her attempts to communicate with her, Melek shows no reaction. Eda then goes to her room to rest, and before sleeping, she prays for Melek. Suddenly, Melek's ghost appears and terrifies her, while Havel grabs her hands. Amid this haunting, they both vanish, leaving Eda to flee from the room in distress. However, she chooses not to disclose anything to her mother. Meanwhile, we see Munever attempting to feed Melek, who adamantly refuses to eat. Frustrated, Munever resorts to forcefully stuffing food into her mouth, causing her to eventually lose consciousness. Munever, realizing her mistake, is filled with regret, but then Melek screams at her, startling Munever awake from her sleep. On the other hand, we witness Havel engrossed in a black magic ritual when suddenly, two children appear. They quietly observe for a moment before leaving the scene. The following day, Eda pays a visit to Ayla, who inquires if Eda has heard about a villager sighting Havel around the house. Eda admits that her mom heard that too, and everyone is saying something. Ayla says it's been 3 years, but it is as if yesterday and it haunts her dreams. Eda confides that she saw Melek and Havel in her room yesterday. Ayla urges her not to talk about this, revealing her own recurring nightmares. She then discloses a disturbing belief that Havel had 2 children who perished from tuberculosis. But Havel is convinced that they are still alive. To soothe them, Havel sings lullabies and commits cruel acts, such as killing cats and chickens as an offering, and she tried to sacrifice Melek for that too. She goes to that house because her children are there. Hearing all this, Eda becomes increasingly concerned and remarks how Burcu managed to escape from all these troubles while they continue to suffer the consequences. Ayla then reveals that she received a call from Burcu the previous night, expressing her intention to visit Melek and also meet with them. Meanwhile, Burcu calls Hakan to inform him that she is about to leave and will return on Sunday around 8 p.m. if nothing goes wrong. Upon arriving at the parking lot, she notices 2 children playing near a car. Despite their presence, she chooses to ignore them and proceeds to her own vehicle. However, as she tries to start the car, a fly begins to bother her. She attempts to shoo it away, but is suddenly frightened by the sight of a ghost. Terrified, she exits her car, only to find no one around. Meanwhile, Ayla is ironing clothes at her shop, when suddenly she is startled by the mannequin standing behind her falling. As she tries to lift it, she is horrified to see that it is Melek, who grabs her and says something in another language. It's only then that her dad arrives, and Ayla sees that there is no one on the floor. Later, while Eda is watching TV at her house, a piece of paper comes flying into her house. Upon checking it, she discovers a strange drawing on it, and suddenly, she hears her mother's voice and is shocked to find herself sleeping on the couch, and her mother is trying to wake her up. Startled, Eda wakes up screaming, only to realize that her mother isn't there, and the piece of paper is still in its place. Perplexed, she checks it again, and hears her mother's voice once more. But this time, she is haunted by the ghost of Melek. She wakes up screaming from her sleep, realizing it was a nightmare, and her mother rushes to calm her down. Later, Burcu visits Melek's home and asks Munever to forgive her father. She reassures her that she has spoken to her dad, and he will take care of Uncle Davu's job. She also offers her some cash for their help. She then meets Melek and tells her that she prays God every day for her to get better. She tells her that they all are miserable because of that woman, and asks her not to worry, because they will catch that woman and she will get what she deserves. Meanwhile, Ayla is on her way home when she notices 2 kids playing on the roadside. As she moves forward, the kids tell her that they are hiding under the cover. Ayla removes the cover and is shocked to find another cover beneath it. Terrified, she attempts to flee, but she is haunted by the kids and Havel. Havel then cuts off her tongue with a pair of scissors in front of her, before they all vanish from the scene. On the other hand, while Burcu is on her way to her mother's house, she notices a police car parked outside a secluded house. Curious, she stops and approaches the scene, finding some townspeople gathered there. She inquires why the police are present, and they inform her that they have apprehended the woman who kidnapped the little girl. Just then, she hears Ayla's voice calling her inside, confirming the capture of Havel. As she enters the house, darkness envelops the surroundings, and everyone disappears. Burcu then uses her phone's flashlight to look around and is shocked to see Melek there. Suddenly, Havel haunts her, but Burcu wakes up in her car screaming. Meanwhile, Eda is attempting to sleep when suddenly, the lights in her aquarium go off, but after a while, they turn on by themselves. Suddenly, Melek's ghost leaps onto Eda and begins to strangle her, while Havel approaches and applies something to her face. Eda abruptly wakes up gasping and finds her fish on the floor, prompting her to quickly put them back into the tank. Meanwhile, Melek sees Havel outside her house through a window, triggering memories of that fateful night, and causing foam to form in her mouth. But just then, her parents arrive, and Havel departs. The next day, Burcu meets Ayla, who confides that they haven't been able to gather themselves since that unsettling day. Ayla reveals she's been plagued by dreadful nightmares for the past few days and shares her news of getting engaged to Mehmet. Burcu is happy to hear this, and here we learn that she and Mehmet were childhood lovers. Soon after, Eda joins them and updates them on Melek's deteriorating condition from the previous night. She mentions that her father plans to take her to see a Haja today. Eda expresses regret over leaving Melek alone that night, stating that she's been haunted by nightmares of Havel, feeling as if she is punishing her. Burcu attempts to reassure her, but Eda insists that none of this would have happened if they hadn't abandoned Melek. Overwhelmed by Eda's distress, Burcu abruptly leaves, remarking that Eda came to fight and wishing she had never shown up. On the other hand, we see Melek and her father with the Haja, who diagnoses a problem within her brain, suggesting that a portal to other worlds has been opened, cautioning him to be vigilant, as someone has casted a spell on her. The Haja further explains that Melek's heart harbors intense animosity, leading her to curse incessantly. She has repeatedly invoked the name El Kahar tens of thousands of times. This name, the 16th of Allah, is invoked to vanquish heartless enemies. However, the Haja warns that like a double-edged blade, its misuse can lead to self-destruction. He advises patience, allowing the curse to take effect so that Melek may eventually find peace. Later that night, Melek sees Havel once again outside her house, prompting a revelation about the events of that fateful night. It is disclosed that Burcu, Eda, and Ayla collectively tortured Melek after Burcu discovered her picture in Mehmet's phone. Despite Melek's protests of innocence, fueled by their anger, Ayla cuts her hair, and Eda smears her face with mud. In a moment of escalation, Burcu pushes Melek, causing her to fall, and a nail to penetrate her head. Initially believing Melek to be faking injury, their terror mounts when Burcu attempts to get her up, prompting them to flee the scene. However, they stop when they spot Havel, who was actually attempting to rescue Melek. In a moment of panic and desperation, they decide to frame Havel for the incident, intending to shift the blame onto her. Back in the present, when Eda returns home, her mother invites her to sit down. She then questions Eda about bringing soil into the house, a sight that shocks Eda. Suddenly, Havel and Melek's ghost haunt her. They seize her and bury her face in the mud, revealing that she is one of the individuals who Melek was cursing. And tragically, Eda succumbs to suffocation and dies. Meanwhile, Ayla questions her dad about what he is doing, to which he reveals that he is making a coffin for her. Ayla is shocked by this revelation, and suddenly, Havel's ghost appears and strangles her with her own hair. Melek's ghost also materializes, and after a brief moment, Ayla tragically dies and collapses. Burcu returns home and begins coughing. She struggles to rise but collapses, and her condition rapidly deteriorates. After some time, she starts vomiting nails, and the same piece of wood that caused Melek's condition emerges from her throat. it becomes apparent that Havel's ghost is exerting control over her, and suddenly, Melek's ghost grabs her hair and forcefully slams her face onto the nail, resulting in her death as well. After these events unfold, Melek is shown to have fully recovered, and the movie ends here. Thanks for facing the frights with us. If you survived this video, drop a like, summon that subscribe button, and brace yourself for more horror. Until next time, stay spooked.